Hey guys, I'm back to talk about A Song of Ice and Fire. Today I listened to Roy Dotrice read to me the chapter A Clash of Kings, Bran 4. And it was great. So I'm going to talk about that. It starts out with Mira and Bran playing with Summer, Bran's direwolf. They're kind of roughhousing, really. But Summer's a smart wolf, and he knows it's just play, so nobody's really at risk of getting hurt. In fact, Summer is the smartest of the direwolves, and he may even be my favorite direwolf. I don't know, it's between Summer and Ghost. Mostly what blew my hair back about this chapter was the end. So let me summarize what's going on in it. It doesn't go very far, or have a lot of people, which is a pretty common characteristic of Bran chapters. And I think it's why I love them, because they're always just an intimate trek through the woods or something, with a lovable cast of like 7 characters or so, who are just talking about stories and philosophy and the past, direwolves and crows, and they're always chock full of green dreams and nature imagery, prophecies, and I love ruminating on the symbolism and trying to puzzle out what things mean. At this point in the story, the Reed kids, Jojen and Mira, have become good friends with Bran, and they basically spend all their time together. The Reeds seem very interested in the direwolves. I mean, when they arrived at Winterfell, it was the first thing they wanted to see. They asked where the direwolves are and if they could see them. And now, and I think this is the next chapter after that, they're playing with the direwolves and with Bran and having a wrestling match with a direwolf. It's fucking it's pretty brave, but like they're not scared. Well, Mira's kind of scared, but Jojen's like, nah, this isn't the day I die or whatever. So Jojen actually knows when he's going to die. At least he believes he does. And there's a part where Mira looks at Jojen. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. This is Jojen, Bran, and Mira. Sitting cross-legged under the weirwood, Jojen Reed regarded him solemnly. "It would be good if you left Winterfell, Bran." "It would?" "Yes, and sooner rather than later." "My brother has the green sight," said Mira. "He dreams things that haven't happened, but sometimes they do." "There is no sometimes, Mira." A look passed between them, him sad, her defiant. So that's the look I was talking about. So there's a question you could ask of, what did that look mean? Because it's obviously a meaningful look, especially considering that they both have different expressions on them. So one is sad and the other is defiant. And I was thinking, considering that Jojen has green dreams, and Mira knows that Jojen has green dreams, and sometimes they come true, and one of them apparently is that Jojen saw how he's going to die, and so now Jojen knows how he's going to die. It seems like Jojen probably must have told Mira how he's going to die. And maybe that's what this look is about. Where Mira says, he dreams things that haven't happened, but sometimes they do. That can be read as Mira's denial about Jojen's prophesized death. And then that's why his look is sad and hers is defiant. Because she's defying that future. She doesn't want it to happen because that's her brother, but he knows it's going to happen, and he's sad about it. But he's Jojen. He's sort of accepted his death. Anyway, that was one of the things in this chapter that caught my attention. I think Jojen told Mira before this chapter, and probably even before they set out to Winterfell, his green dream about how he's going to die. Or at least that he's going to die at the end of their journey. I think that's like as vague as it could have been. And maybe it was more specific than that, but it doesn't need to be. And then Bran says, "Tell me what's going to happen." "I will," said Jojen, "if you'll tell me about your dreams." So Jojen is super interested in Bran's dreams. And this is when the chapter gets kind of tense, because Bran doesn't want to tell him about his dreams. He wants to talk about something else. The godswood grew quiet. Bran could hear leaves rustling and Hodor's distant splashing from the hot pools. He thought of the golden man and the three-eyed crow, remembered the crunch of bones between his jaws and the coppery taste of blood. "I don't have dreams. Maester Luwin gives me sleeping draughts." So Bran, it looks to me like Bran feels guilty about his dreams, because he's eating blood in them. And there's at least 3 reasons there for why. He thought of the Golden Man. That's Jaime Lannister. And in his dreams about the Three-Eyed Crow, the Three-Eyed Crow doesn't want him to think about his fall, or Jaime Lannister, or any of that. He wants him to, put it aside. He tells him to put it aside. Put that away, something like that. And so I think the Three-Eyed Crow was trying to prevent Bran from ruminating on the bad thing that happened to him and becoming resentful, backwards looking, and all of that. I think he wants him to look forward and not get hung up on his resentments and his bitterness about his situation being paralyzed from the waist down. So that's the Golden Man. He thought of the Golden Man, represents all of that. And this part that says, "and the Three-Eyed Crow," represents, just the Three-Eyed Crow, eventually Bloodraven, the Old Gods, all of that. And with the Crow, he's, it's freaking weird. He's not sure about the Crow, I think. And I don't think he feels particularly guilty about it, but it's a weird and creepy thing that he might not want to tell people that he's dreaming about until he understands what it is. And because imagine if you told people that you were dreaming about a crow that talks to you and tells you to do things and not do things, and you would sound like a schizophrenic or something. People might start thinking you're crazy. So that's item number 2 that's causing Bran to not tell Jojen about his dreams. Item number 3 is remembered the crunch of bones between his jaws and the coppery taste of blood. So those are his wolf dreams when he goes into summer and he goes hunting and killing animals and eating them as summer. Then he wakes up with the taste of blood in his mouth. And maybe he's a little afraid of that. I don't know how much these dreams are dreams and how much they're real. But maybe they're uncomfortably real for him. And he's got a sense of that. So he says, "I don't have dreams. Maester Luwin gives me sleeping draughts." Jojen says, "Do they help?" "Sometimes." Mira said, "All of Winterfell knows you wake at night shouting and sweating, Bran. The women talk of it at the well and the guards in their hall." Could potentially be a noteworthy detail. Okay, so all of the characters at Winterfell may have this piece of knowledge that Bran has bad dreams. I don't want to chase that right now, though. Maybe some other time. "Tell us what frightens you so much," said Jojen. "I don't want to. Anyway, it's only dreams. Maester Luwin says dreams might mean anything or nothing." Anyway, so Jojen presses the issue, and Bran gets kind of pissed off. And so does his direwolf. And then so do the other direwolves, who show up, sensing Bran's distress. And I think they surround Jojen and Mira and start snarling and snapping at him. It's pretty intense, because these wolves are the size of a fucking pony. So If they want you dead, you're gonna be dead. Jojen tells his green dream about a winged wolf bound to earth with gray stone chains. And a crow was trying to peck through the chains, but the stone was too hard. The stone was too hard, and his beak could only chip at them. Jojen thinks the winged wolf is Bran, and he thinks the crow is the three-eyed crow, because Jojen dreams about the three-eyed crow too. And he actually tells us the first time he saw the crow in his dreams. It was when he had graywater fever or whatever. Yeah. When I was little, I almost died of graywater fever. That was when the crow came to me. So that could inform the motivations of the crow. In both Bran and Jojen's cases, he's showing up at a near-death experience. And then Jojen actually interprets the prophecy. And it makes so much sense that I tend to agree with it. He says, "You are the winged wolf, Bran," said Jojen. "I wasn't sure when we first came, but now I am. The crow sent us here to break your chains." And whenever a character does that, it seemingly breaks the practically inviolable rule of stories that the characters can never give you the right answer to a prophecy. Because the point of prophecy is that you're supposed to solve it. The reader is. If the character's just giving you the damn answer, like a paragraph after you heard the prophecy for the first time, that's lame. You just took the fun away from us. So I can be pretty confident that this is not right. That Bran is not the winged wolf. Or if he is, at least it doesn't mean what it seems to mean here. But Jojen all but admits that the crow is the one who sent him and Mira here to Bran. He says the crow sent us here to break your chains. It's unclear. He could be saying that the crow sent them, or that could just be him running away with his interpretation of his prophecy, or vision, or whatever. Green dream. It's all the same thing to me. It's all foreshadowing. Oh, here's the answer. Mira Reed hung the net from her belt. When Jojen told our Lord Father what he'd dreamed, he sent us to Winterfell. So Howland is the one who sent the Reed kids to Winterfell. But the crow was in the dream that caused Howland to send them to Winterfell, so I guess you could say it's not totally unfair to say the crow sent them. Works either way, I guess. Bran talks about opening his third eye. He says, "Open your eye." They are open, can't you see? Two are open, Jojen pointed. 1, 2. I only have 2. You have 3. The crow gave you the third, but you will not open it. He had a slow, soft way of speaking. With 2 eyes, you see my face. With 3, you could see my heart. With 2, you can see that oak tree there. With 3, you could see the acorn the oak grew from, and the stump that it will one day become. With 2, you see no farther than your walls. With 3, you would gaze south to the summer sea, and north beyond the wall. So this passage from Jojen about seeing things clearly or whatever, it echoes similar passages throughout the story of seeing things clearly, like seeing through the bullshit to see what's actually there. And so Serial Pharrell has one like this, where he teaches Arya how to see things true, how to see with your eyes and hear with your ears, and save the thinking for after you've done the sensing, is the gist of it. Because that way you're not as easily misled. Because it's easy to mislead people if you can control their thinking before you show them the thing. Jojen's is a little more in depth, I think. With 2 eyes you see my face. With 3 you could see my heart. And seeing someone's heart it means to see their deepest, truest desires and motivations and longings, which is a much more significant, profound sort of way of seeing people than just looking at their face. And the same sort of thing is going on with the oak tree metaphor. He says with 2 you can see that oak tree there. With 3 you can see the acorn the oak grew from, and the stump that it will one day become. When you look at something, you won't just see that something as it is now, you'll see what it could become in the future and what it has been in the past. And you'll see all of that together as one, as part of the tree, when you look at it. So again, it's like a more profound way to look at something. And so this is a description of what it's like what it means to open your third eye, to open Bran's third eye. It's you see things in a more profound, meaningful sort of way, and truthful sort of way. So then Jojen pushes him on the dreams. Did you dream of a wolf? He was making Bran angry. I don't have to tell you my dreams. I'm the prince. I'm the Stark in Winterfell. Was it summer? You be quiet. So anyway, the direwolves step in. Let me jump forward a bit. Mira gets uneasy. She tells Jojen to jump up a tree. He says, there's no need. Today is not the day I die. Jojen's kind of a badass. So the way I read this is that the direwolves their behavior right now is a manifestation of Bran's internal feelings about having to share his dreams, or being pressured to share his dreams. He really doesn't want to. And maybe there's something about them that scares him. And maybe he's scared of what people will think of him. And maybe he's scared that they're real. They're realer than he's ready to admit. Especially the wolf dreams. Because if you have dreams about being a wolf and eating animals, having blood in your mouth, and then you wake up with the taste of blood in your mouth, that would freak anybody out. But I think if that happened to me, I would assume that the dream is a manifestation of the taste, not the other way around. Like, okay, I must have bit my tongue when I was sleeping or something. Or just like a wound opened up in my mouth. I don't know. And then I got the taste of blood. And then the taste of blood triggered a bunch of neuron connections in my brain that made me have this dream of eating. That I'm eating a dead animal or whatever. Eating a rabbit. And I'm a wolf. So in a world without warging, skin changing, that would be the most reasonable thing to think, I think. But of course, Bran's a warg, so that seems a little more reasonable in his situation. Bran calls for Hodor's help to sort of stave off the wolves, because he knows the wolves won't hurt Hodor. Bran thinks it was the wolves, it wasn't me. Maybe Maester Luwin was right to lock them in the Godswood. So he doesn't realize that his emotions are what's producing the wolves' behavior right now. I get the sense that he's in denial about his abilities and his warging and stuff, and his wolf dreams. Just all of it. And I think what Jojen is doing is he's trying to get him past that denial, to just accept that this is what he is and what's really happening, because he's got an important role to play in this world, in this story, and he'll never be able to play it if he's just denying all of this stuff. And that really speaks to me. This is an encouraging chapter, I think, and I like that a lot. Then as the chapter continues, Bran goes to talk to Maester Luwin, and he asks him about green sight, green dreams, and green seers. And Maester Luwin and Bran are talking for a while about magic and all this stuff. And Luwin is, he's a non-believer, you might say. His answers are very much, magic is gone, it's not real, it doesn't exist. But he's kind of ambivalent about it. Like in some lines he says that it's not real, and sometimes he says that maybe it was once real. It's like, well, which one is it? Pick your damn stance here. If you're so sure about magic, then why can't you seem to make up your mind about what you think about it? That's sort of my impression of Luwin. Luwin says, all of us have dreams that come true sometimes. You dreamed of your Lord Father in the crypts before we knew he was dead, remember? Rickon did too. We dreamed the same dream. Call it green sight if you wish. But remember as well all those tens of thousands of dreams that you and Rickon have dreamed that did not come true. Do you perchance recall when I taught you about the chain collar that every maester wears? Yeah, so like, Luwin knows that the dream that Bran and Rickon had of that Ned was in the crypts came true. I mean, it came true enough. Like, it was symbolic of... The crypts were symbolic of death. And Ned can literally be interpreted as Ned. And then Ned dies. And then Maester Luwin even had the proof that Rickon and Bran had the same dream. But even knowing that and seeing it for himself, he still tries to deny that anything magical happened there. Like, if it were just one kid who had a dream that predicted what was going to happen literally, like, tomorrow, you might be able to shrug it off still. You might be able to say, okay, a person has thousands of dreams in a lifetime. The chances that none of them are going to come true are probably pretty low. Why not this one? But when two kids have the same dream and then it comes true the next day, you can't write that off. There's some magical shit going on there. And so Luwin's in denial about magic. And I think that denial is what fills the ellipses after. Call it green sight if you wish. It's like, no, this is green sight, dude. He knows this is green sight, but he doesn't know what to do with it, and that's discomforting for him. So he's going to deny it. And he says, remember all those tens of thousands of dreams that you guys had that did not come true. So if ever you start to think magic is real, just remind yourself of all the mundane things around you. And that'll comfort you like it comforts me and quell the nonsense and bring you back down to earth. It's like, maybe I'm not comforted by that like you are. Maybe I still want to believe in magic and that there was more meaning to things than you're giving them credit. So what I really love about this chapter is right at the end. Let me skip to it, because it's a commentary on... Well, I don't want to spoil it, so let me just read it. Bran goes back to Mira and talks to her about the conversation he just had with Luwin, about the conversation that he had with Jojen and Mira. No, my prince, Jojen Reed may have had a dream or two that he believes came true, but he does not have the green sight. No living man has that power. Bran said as much to Mira Reed when she came to him at dusk as he sat in his window seat, watching the lights flicker to life. I'm sorry for what happened with the wolves. Summer shouldn't have tried to hurt Jojen, but Jojen shouldn't have said all that about my dreams. The crow lied when he said I could fly, and your brother lied too. Or perhaps your maester is wrong. He isn't. Even my father relied on his counsel. Your father listened, I have no doubt, but in the end he decided for himself. Bran, will you let me tell you about a dream Jojen dreamed of you and your fosterling brothers? The Walders aren't my brothers. She paid that no heed. You were sitting at supper, but instead of a servant, Maester Luwin brought you your food. He served you the king's cut off the roast, the meat rare and bloody, but with a savory smell that made everyone's mouth water. The meat he served the Freys was old and gray and dead, yet they liked their supper better than you liked yours. I don't understand. You will, my brother says. When you do, we'll talk again. That is so freaking cool! So Jojen had this dream before they even got to Winterfell, and he told Meera about it, and now Meera is telling Bran about it. In the dream, there's a feast. Not unlike the feast that happened earlier in this book, the Clash of Kings, at Winterfell. And then Maester Luwin brought Bran some food, and it's really good food. He gave him the best cut off the roast or whatever. But the Frey boys got the worst food. Theirs was old and gray and gross and whatever. But they liked their supper better than he liked his. In this dream, Maester Luwin bringing him the good food represents the conversation that he just had with Maester Luwin, where Maester Luwin telling him that magic is not real and the green dreams are not real and blah blah blah. That's what Maester Luwin is feeding Bran, figuratively. And so that's what the food represents in this dream, in Jojen's dream. And the nasty food that the Freys eat, they like theirs better. Let me read the last 2 paragraphs of this chapter before I continue with that, because there's more. Bran was almost afraid to sit to supper that night. But when he did, it was pigeon pie they set before him. Everyone else was served the same, and he couldn't see that anything was wrong with the food they served the Walders. Maester Luwin has the truth of it, he told himself. Nothing bad was coming to Winterfell, no matter what Jojen said. Bran was relieved, but disappointed too. So long as there was magic, anything could happen. Ghosts could walk, trees could talk, and broken boys could grow up to be knights. But there isn't, he said aloud in the darkness of his bed. There's no magic, and the stories are just stories. And he would never walk, nor fly, nor be a knight. So the downer ending for Bran in this chapter is the reason that Bran didn't like his delicious supper in Jojen's dream. Those are the same thing. That's fucking amazing. I love this. Alright, so Bran was relieved. It says Bran was relieved, ... but disappointed too. Yeah, he's disappointed because he knows magic is real. And he's having Luwin tell him it's not. And he knows it's wrong. And he knows it in his heart. The heart doesn't lie. He just learned that from Jojen. If you can see into someone's heart, you can see the truth of them. This chapter is about story itself. The nature of story and symbolism. And it seems like a lot of Bran's chapters are about that. Which is probably why they tried to shoehorn it into Bran's story at the end of the TV show. Because George R. R. Martin probably told them, hey, Bran's story is about story itself. But he didn't tell them how or why or what to do with it. And so they were just like, okay, we'll try to fit it in or something. I don't know. We don't understand it. I think that's what happened with this show. But I don't want to talk about the show. I want to talk about the books. So, magic in the story can be read as a metaphor for story. Because story is the only way to convey meanings that nobody knows how to articulate yet. Because with a story, you can get inside of another person's mind in a way that you can't really do that in real life. And you get like a sympathetic view of what they're going through. And in that way, you can develop a greater understanding of other people and situations and the dilemma that they're caught in. that conveys an amount of complexity that would be difficult to impossible to convey in a condensed, compact form. It has to be elaborated in a story form. Some people can do that, like Nietzsche was really good at doing that. He also knew that he was really good at doing that. And so he came across kind of arrogant about it. I think he even said, like, I can say in one line what takes other people an entire book to say. Something like that. You know, when I read Jojen's dream about the phrase liking their supper better than Bran liked his, it reminded me of a similar sort of line in the movie Fight Club, which I think was a book originally. But it's the part where I think a guy like narrowly escapes being murdered by the main character, and then Tyler Durden says, like, tomorrow Raymond's breakfast is going to taste better than any breakfast you or I have ever eaten. Really dark, but also really deep. Interesting to think about, you know? And I think everybody's probably experienced that sort of thing. You know, like hot chili. Why does hot chili taste the best eaten outdoors in the winter? I think the same sort of thing's going on there. Alright, guys. I didn't get as deep as I wanted to get on this chapter. It was pretty good, though. I felt like I scratched the surface of what I wanted to say about this chapter. Damn good chapter. Clash of Kings, Bran 4. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time.